As any horror movie lover will know, remake is a dreaded word. A word we never want to hear because it always means bad news. A classic being brought back and remade. Why do that when you can create something original? Why mess with something that is already great? That isn't the case for all these movies though. Some remakes hit a home run, making the original look mediocre in comparison. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary horror movie reboots. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. In at number 5 we have Suspiria. Now please note that this movie is very hard for me to include on our list, because if you know me, you know that Dario Argento is one of my favorite directors, and the 1977 Suspiria is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. But I can't ignore the remake forever, not with the success it has received. Also, I'm starting to really like Dakota Johnson these days, so I'm biting the bullet and talking about it. Released in 2018, Suspiria is a supernatural horror art film directed by David Kajanich and inspired by the 1977 Argento movie of the same name. Starring Dakota Johnson, she plays an American woman who enrolls at a prestigious dance academy in Berlin run by a coven of witches. Tilda Swinton stars alongside her in 3 roles, including the company's lead choreographer and as a male psychotherapist involved in the academy. Now, the 2018 version is more of a homage to Argento's classic rather than a straight-up reboot. It is more of a reimagining rooted in themes of revolution and identity. The movie gets weirder and weirder with every passing second, immersing the audience from the off in this artsy and beautifully shot movie that successfully mixes dance, performance, and filmmaking into a giant bowl and creates something wonderful. The movie currently holds a 66% approval rating with the general consensus reading. Suspiria attacks heady themes with garish vigor, offering a viewing experience that's daringly confrontational and definitely not for everyone. Coming in at number 4 we have The Hills Have Eyes. The Hills Have Eyes is a 2006 horror film and remake of Wes Craven's 1977 film of the same name. Directed by Alexandra Aja, the film follows a family that is targeted by a group of cannibalistic mutants after their car breaks down in the desert. As you would expect, the two movies contrast dramatically, with the original being interpreted as an allegory about the Vietnam War, something I wrote an essay about in university. However, my professor told me it was a far reach and heavy-handed. I'm not bitter, just disappointed. Can't let it go. Got a C on that. Should have been an A. Anyway, moving on. The Hills of Eyes is a relentlessly brutal movie with the gore and violence seemingly endless. From a father being strung up and burned to the sister being assaulted by the hill dwellers, the movie is a lot to swallow, but that's what makes it so damn good. Similar to movies like Martyrs, The Hills of Eyes is drenched in the explosive bloodshed of New French Extremity, which for some isn't the most enjoyable or easy to watch, but it's a lot of fun, that's for sure. The movie is a test of endurance, not just for the characters who are fighting for their lives, but also for viewers who are doing their best to not look away from all the bloodshed. Reviews were mixed with this movie, with it receiving just a 52% approval rating. With the consensus reading, faster pace for today's audiences, this Hills remake ratchets up the gore for the hardcore horror fans, but will turn away casual audiences. In at number 3 we have The Crazies. The Crazies is a 2010 horror film directed by Breck Eisner, and is a remake of one of 2 George A. Romero movies on our list. The movie stars Timothy Oliphant and Radha Mitchell, with it focusing on a fictional Iowa town that becomes afflicted by a military virus that turns those infected into violent killers. Now this is another movie on our list that actually outperformed its predecessor, with it reaching new heights with thrills and horror than the original ever dreamed of. Now the original Crazies is just an okay movie, which is a shame coming from legendary director George A. Romero. However, what the original lacked, the reboot made up for tenfold. It is filled to the brim with gore and thrills, topped off with the superb performance by Timothy Oliphant, who plays a painfully likable small-town sheriff, a role he was clearly born to play. Though the film does get a little rocky in the third act with the loss of a key character, the movie as a whole is a fun time, and ends with a zinger that makes up for all its flaws. As it stands, the Crazies reboot currently holds a 71% approval rating, with the general consensus reading, tense, nicely shot, and uncommonly intelligent. The Crazies is a horror remake that unusually works. In at number 2 we have Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is a 2004 action horror film directed by Zack Snyder and written by James Gunn. It is also the remake of George A. Romero's 1978 film of the same name. Now the 2004 version stars Sarah Polley, Ving Rhames, and Mika Pfeiffer, and follows a handful of human survivors living in a shopping mall located in the fictional town of Everett, Wisconsin, who are surrounded by swarms of zombies. The movie is a thrilling, fast-paced reboot of Romero's anti-consumerist classic. The reboot is led by the incredible Sarah Polley, with with the movie being a home run with a combination of Snyder's visuals and Gunn's witty script, being a remarkably fun time for all horror movie lovers. Snyder and Gunn aren't concerned with social commentary as much as the first one is, and as opposed to the original, these zombies charge instead of meander. The movie is stylishly shot with superb music cues, not to mention it's also incredibly funny. As it stands, the movie currently holds a 75% approval rating, with the general consensus reading, a kinetic, violent, and surprisingly worthy remake of George Romero's horror classic that pays homage to the original while working on its own terms. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have The Fly. The Fly is a 1986 science fiction body horror movie directed by David Cronenberg and starring Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, and John Getz. Loosely based on the 1957 short story of the same name by George Langeland, the film tells of an eccentric scientist who, after one of his experiments goes wrong, slowly turns into a fly hybrid creature. Now, some people still don't know this, but it is a remake of a 1958 movie of the same name, starring David Hedison, Patricia Owens, Vincent Price, and Herbert Marshall. The movie was such a success it was followed by 2 black and white sequels, Return of the Fly in 1959 and Curse of the Fly in 1965, before David Cronenberg came along in 1986 and remade the original movie. Now, this is one of the few reboots where the movie isn't just as good as the original, but it's actually better, with Cronenberg taking the story to new dramatic and horrifying heights. Cronenberg reimagined the story as a romantic tragedy and a story of unfulfilled love. Goldblum and Davis are a young couple in love who are sadly torn apart due to human error when a fly sneaks into Seth Brundle's teleportation machine, resulting in him slowly transforming into a fly over the course of the movie. The movie is horrifying but also heartbreaking thanks to an incredible performance by Goldblum, whose transformation throughout the movie is stomach-churning, thanks to makeup artists Chris Wallace and Stephen Dupuis. The film currently holds a 92% approval rating, with the general consensus reading, David Cronenberg combines his trademark affinity for gore and horror with strongly developed characters, making The Fly a surprisingly affecting tragedy. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with that list? Were there any horror movie reboots that we missed? Leave us your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. Perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos, Top 5 Scary Haunted Forest Urban Legends. Yashiroko said, I seriously want to visit all of these places. They sound simply amazing. Also, Lucy, you do not speak funny. I love your accent. Never change. That is all. If you want to visit those places, that's on you, but you may not come back. Also, thanks. I know I don't speak funny. I speak great. Cobra Raptor said, Lucy, Lady of the Devil, could I get a shout out please? I've been trying for a while. Well, this is the first time I'm seeing you, that's all I'm gonna say, but you're getting your shout out. Cara Jory Reed said, I'm honestly glad to witness that I'm not the only person who feels convinced a word just isn't real anymore once it's said too many times. It's so true. If you say any word enough, it just doesn't seem right anymore. It's so weird. Clive Stinksnack said, anyone else get on their knees when commanded? I mean, when I tell you to get on your knees, you better get on your knees, that's all I'm saying. Skinny Puppy said, your videos make me want to start a cult and write a book of Lucy. I mean, by all means, if you want to write a book about me, go do it. And then you can all pray to it every night before you go to sleep. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary bit. And until next time, see you later. Suspiria attacks The Hills Have Eyes is a 2006 horror film and can't speak now. Thanks to makeup artist Chris Wallace and Stephen Dupuis.